Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Live Chat with James. Tonight we're going to talk about Trump, of course, and we're going to talk about some of the idiotic and ridiculousness coming out of the White House and out of Trump's mouth, as well as, of course, Barack Obama has not been speaking much in public, but he made an exception and appeared recently at the Hamilton College for a discussion on various topics. Now, of course, Donald Trump and his policies came up in the conversation, and I thought that we would take a look at that here tonight as well. So, of course, this is another live chat with James coming to you from the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Now let's start off the evening with Donald Trump now calling to have a huge parade in Washington, D.C. on his 79th birthday. Now, let's take a look at this. He has Doge trying to identify waste and fraud within the U.S. government, in which the biggest fraud and the biggest waste seems to be Doge themselves. And this is an ongoing battle. They are just not there in terms of figuring out what the hell is going on with the economics of the government, because they don't understand government economics and they don't understand government policy procedures. And of course, how the separation of various units of the government, from the judiciary to the administrative, and such. So again, the Doge team doesn't understand the requirements of a political or government run system. They also don't understand apparently labor laws or anything else when it comes to just walking in and trying to eliminate entire U.S. departments. It is just a freaking gong show going on. Good day, Canadian Pink Floyd, Vancouver Island, Pody, Fido, Ellie. Welcome everyone to another live chat with James. So again, we're looking at Donald Trump wanting to have this ridiculous parade on his birthday in Washington, D.C. He wants to pull out military equipment such as tanks and weapons and have them paraded in Washington to celebrate his birthday as if he's Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin. Like, this is the kind of ridiculousness we're seeing out of the White House. Now, as I touched on, he has a Doge team who is supposed to be finding waste and fraud in the government. There are people losing their 401ks as we speak. There are four United States service members whose bodies were repatriated over the weekend. And where's Donald Trump during all this? He's out on his golf course. Now, if you don't think that's bad enough, he was not only golfing, but he was also representing the Trump Organization while he is president of the United States, a major conflict of interest. And he was making deals with the Saudis, or at least his companies were, in addition to the amount of money that they were bringing in. And this is just unheard of in U.S. politics and the history of the presidents of the United States of America. They don't take trips to their private businesses to try and do business and drum up support for their own personal gain within that world. Now, take this even further, and the just sheer ignorance of a U.S. president taking time to go golfing instead of welcoming home the bodies of service members who died during training. And this is a part of a NATO training exercise that was going on overseas. And they lost their lives training to protect the United States of America. And he cannot even be bothered to show the respect, to show up and welcome their bodies, and to give words of condolence to the families. Take it even further, there were 18 people killed in the storms in the United States of America over the past several days, and he did not take time from golfing to acknowledge the people who died in the storms in the U.S. Instead, he was showing videos of himself golfing and bragging about his score, bragging about winning a seniors tournament that everybody's too shit scared to call him out on his cheating. And here he is, just continuing as if life is just jolly for him and the world. And meanwhile, the U.S. is being flushed down the shitter and he doesn't care. And that is exactly what he claimed. He said when a reporter asked him, and somebody else was there to witness it, asked him what is, what's going on through his mind, if he doesn't care about the world and what they think of him, or even Americans and what's happening to the US economy. He literally said that he doesn't give a F. He does not care about what people think of him, and he doesn't care about what people think of his policies and what he is doing. If you think that's ridiculous enough, take it even a step further when on the weekend he put out a tweet, a Truth Social post in which it said there that Donald Trump is intentionally crashing the stock market. And he proudly resent that out on his Truth Social. Now, I don't know if it actually started with him or if he was reposting somebody else's post, but ridiculous that the President of the United States thinks it's funny that the American stock market has lost almost $10 trillion in value, and he's out golfing and thinking the world is fine. Now, to go and again visit some of his comments, he says that the Americans need to just toughen up. He says they just need to be patient and wait it out. He goes on to make all of these different things, telling people to hang on and not be weak, assuming that or insinuating that people are weak if they start panicking about their 401ks going down the toilet. And that is just ridiculous. It shows how out of touch this president is with the American people. And, as I said, he clearly stated, just plain and simple, that he doesn't give an F about what people think. And that is very evident in his actions. He is probably one of the most deranged individuals possible to be at the helm of the US government and to be in possession of nuclear codes. Let's face it, he is just enjoying the fact that he has all of this power to sign an executive order, and all of these countries start bowing to him and start cowering and coming to him begging hat in hand. And it's the same thing with corporate leaders. He wants people to come out and just beg him because it makes him feel like a powerful man. Him and his tiny little hands just sitting there waiting and twiddling his fingers and hoping that people come begging to him when it's a solution that need not be, because of the fact that he created the crisis to start with. And that is in itself just unbelievable for a U.S. president to care so little about the people that he supposedly represents. Now, he is saying, as well as his administration, including bargain basement Barbie, as I call her, his press secretary, they say, well, everybody knew that he was going to do this when he ran. He told everybody. Well, no, he did not. He was running on a campaign of lowering prices, making things more affordable for Americans, and offering stability to the government. And that is far from what he is doing. Now, when it comes to the deportations and the ICE crackdowns and raids, as well as illegally sending people out of the country to El Salvador, people expected that when he said he was going to crack down on immigration and illegals, that it would be done in a legal manner. It wouldn't just be a blanket, you've got no rights, you've got no appeal, you have no ability to challenge the claims by the U.S. government. Now, the U.S. government, in turn, has turned around and labeled all of these individuals as members of various gangs, that they pose a national security threat to the United States of America. And we're learning that, besides the one individual, I believe from Maryland, who was subsequently deported, and they claim that it was an administrative error, they have now, after another judge ordered them to have him back and present him in court by Monday night. Instead, what has happened is that they got a stay from the Supreme Court while it continues through the processes. That means that Trump and his government are sitting pretty, not giving a shit about somebody who shouldn't be in El Salvador, that's life is at risk while he's in El Salvador, and instead Trump just wants to play games with his government, and they continue to mislabel him as a MS-16 member, I believe it was. But regardless, they are calling him a gang-involved individual. They are saying he's involved in human trafficking and so much more. And there's absolutely no shred of evidence to back up their claims. This individual had an order by a judge that he not be deported to El Salvador, and the Trump administration sent him anyway. And now we're just going, too bad, we have no authority, and are challenging the judge's authority in the order that she stated that she wanted him returned, regardless as to what it takes. And again, they are just playing out in the Supreme Court to go along with Donald Trump and his little tantrums and whatever he wants. Now, I've never heard of a politician in a democratic society that is able to bully and intimidate the courts, to bully and intimidate judges, to actually threaten judges, to have them removed, and for their billionaire puppet string puller to be able to try and bribe voters and influence a vote of a judge in a certain area. The U.S. is just in shambles right now, and Donald Trump decides it's time to go golf. And as I said, he was hanging out with all of these people at his golf course over the weekend, charging millions of dollars for the Secret Service and everybody else, raking in the money of inflated rates and costs to the American taxpayers. Does he care? Not at all. He's making money, so is his family, and that's what matters to Donald Trump. Now, again, we'll go back to this ridiculous call that he wants to hold a national parade on his birthday in Washington, having tanks that the streets aren't built for. They'll ruin the streets, they'll ruin infrastructure, and it is just absolutely insane that he is calling on having this parade at a cost of tens of millions of dollars to the American taxpayers who are sitting there losing their 401ks, who are feeling the effects of tariffs, and if they aren't yet, they will be very soon. And yet here Donald Trump wants to spend tens of millions of dollars to celebrate his own birthday in Washington by showing off all of this military might, like he's some kind of a dictator that he wants to be. It is absolutely just disgusting and unheard of in the United States or in any Western world as we know it. It is just disgusting. Now, we can also take a look at the fact that $10 trillion was lost in the markets, and Donald Trump doesn't give a shit. He and his billionaire friends are probably sitting there buying low as things crash. And today, when the market started to make some type of response in a positive way, he turned around and made it clear that he was doubling down on tariffs, that he was not backing off, that this is the long term, and again causing the markets to reverse and head back down to record lows. It is just unbelievable. And dare I say it, it is looking like the recession in the U.S. is rolling in very rapidly, and unfortunately he is taking the rest of the world with it. Now, there have been markets in Japan and other international communities where the markets actually hit the trigger point, which meant that the markets had to be closed in order to keep them stable and to stabilize the losses that are being just amazing numbers every day. And yeah, when you're looking at the Tokyo Exchange and other exchanges that have to be shut down because of Donald Trump's decisions, he is just loving the fact that he has that power over the international community, and he is destroying what little credibility the United States has left. Now, when you look at people coming to line up, the White House has claimed that 50 world leaders have been knocking on the door and ringing the phones off the hooks to try and settle and to negotiate agreements. But let's face it, what good is an agreement with Donald Trump? He had renegotiated the Canada-Mexico-U.S. agreement, and here we are, years later, he's back in office saying it's the worst deal ever, and yet he negotiated it. So what this shows the international community is that Donald Trump's agreements aren't worth the paper that he uses to wipe his ass. And let's face it, we all know that he is a con man. He is just grifting everybody. I can go through my email every day and I get at least 6 different emails with the Trump name on it, in which he's trying to sell me anything from a Gulf of America baseball cap to a coffee cup and autograph inauguration photos of himself. I mean, the grifting of this piece of crap just doesn't end. It's unheard of in the history of presidents of the United States. How low he is willing to go in order to get a dollar out of everybody who's already suffering. He just doesn't get it. And that is the scariest part of all that should worry every American. I don't care if you voted Republican or Democrat, let's face it. If you can come to the point in your life to realize that you made a mistake in voting for this orange felon, your life will be better for it, because it's time that people insist the Republicans and the Democrats grow some balls and stand up to Trump. It's time that the American public demand better of their systems, whether it is the legal system, whether it is the administrative system, or whether it is the congressional system. It's time to stand up and say enough is enough. We've seen a lot of different responses from various parts of the world. The big rallies and demonstrations that happened over this past weekend, they did not isolate to the borders of the United States of America. People were looking at this and protesting Trump's decisions and policies around the world. It was not isolated to the United States of America. Now, this brings me to a point that that Barack Obama actually responded to the Trump tariffs and Trump actions recently in a speech and a conversation that he had at Hamilton College in the United States. Now, Barack Obama hasn't been making a lot of public speeches. He hasn't been making a lot of public appearances, but he did in this case, and he directly addressed what's going on with Trump. So let's take a look at that video now, and then we'll come back and discuss that a bit further as well. But we'll take a look at this video of Barack Obama. As I said, he was appearing at Hamilton College in the United States and addressed the current situation of politics and government there. So let's just hit the play on this and
then finally, media. I think one of the most important aspects of our democratic practice is having a well-informed citizenry, which is reliant on a free, objective, effective press. And that started getting attacked. And so you combine all those factors together, and we saw it over the course of decades. But obviously it's gotten a lot worse now. And when I watch some of what's going on now, it does not, look, I don't think what we just witnessed in terms of economic policy and tariffs is going to be good for America, but that's a specific policy. I'm more deeply concerned with a federal government that threatens universities if they don't give up students who are exercising their right to free speech. I am more troubled the idea that a White House can say to law firms, if you represent parties that we don't like, we're going to pull all our business or bar you from representing people effectively. That kind of behavior is contrary to the basic compact we have as Americans. Imagine if I had done any of this. Let me just, I just want to be clear about this. Imagine that imagine if I had pulled Fox News' credentials from the White House press corps. You're laughing, but no, this is what's happening. Imagine if I'd said to law firms that were representing parties that were upset with policies my administration had initiated, that you will not be allowed into government buildings. We will punish you economically for dissenting from the Affordable Care Act or the Iran deal. We will ferret out students who protest against my policies. It's unimaginable that the same parties that are silent now would have tolerated behavior like that from me, or a whole bunch of my predecessors. So, and I say this not on a partisan basis. This has to do with something more precious, which is, who are we as a country, and what values do we stand for? And now, this is not just an abstraction, and I think this is one of the challenges that we have. And I saw this even before the last election. I think people tend to think, democracy, rule of law, independent judiciary, freedom of the press, that's all abstract stuff because it's not affecting the price of eggs. Well, you know what? It's about to affect the price of eggs. One of the things that has distinguished us in the past has been this basic idea that we are a rules-based society. What that means is that, you know what, I can support one candidate instead of another, and I don't have to worry that the police are going to come harass me or my customers. That's what happens in other places. That's what happens in Russia. We take for granted the idea that we don't have to pay bribes or hire somebody's cousin in order to get a business permit. That's how we built the economy we did. That's why this place worked. And it has very concrete impacts on all of our lives. So, this is the first time I've been speaking publicly for a while. I've been watching a little bit. Yeah. Let me just close this portion of my remarks by saying it is up to all of us to fix this. It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen, the ordinary person who says, no, that's not right. And I do think one of the reasons that our commitment to democratic ideals has eroded is that we got pretty comfortable and complacent. You know, it has been easy during most of our lifetimes to say you are progressive or say you are for social justice, or say you're for free speech, and not have to pay a price for it. And now we're at one of those moments where, you know what, it's not enough just to say you're for something. You may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit. So, yeah, if you're a law firm being threatened, you might have to say, okay, we will lose some business because we're going to stand for a principle. If you are a university, you may have to say, figure out, are we in fact doing things right? Have we in fact violated our own values, our own code, violated the law in some fashion? If not, and you're just being intimidated, well, you should be able to say, well, that's why we got this big endowment. We'll stand up for what we believe in, and then we'll pay our researchers for a while out of that endowment, and we'll give up the extra wing or the fancy gymnasium that we can delay that for a couple of years, because academic freedom might be a little more important.
So there you can see Barack Obama very eloquently but firmly calls out the Trump government, as well as the universities who are bowing down and providing the names of students who may have been involved in legal protests, in voicing their opinions, in exercising their freedom of speech, and he calls them out. And he calls them out very clearly based on the financial aspect of it, the economic aspect for the university, saying that you've got these large endowments and you can use those to get through this challenge ahead, and to stand up to Donald Trump and the American administration as it is right now and protect your student. Your student bodies are what make up your university. Your student bodies are the benefactors of the future that are going to be your alumnus that will support your programs and your budgets in the future. Now, if you fail to protect those students or don't make them feel like they are valued by the university, what impact do you think that's going to have on the future of your university, as opposed to a president who's going to be in office for 4 years? Hopefully he doesn't destroy the entire country in that 4 years, but the realistic point is that if you do not have the balls to stand up and protect your student body and allow them to exercise their freedom of speech to be protected by for expressing that, then that is a big concern as well. Now, I also really liked the fact that Barack Obama called out law firms. Now, Donald Trump has bullied these law firms not only to get his way and to have these law firms not represent certain individuals, but also threatening to pull all government contracts, threatening to give them access to government buildings, which they may need to defend their clients. There's so many ways that not only did he threaten them, but he extorted them, because now he is also getting tens of millions of dollars in free legal services from some of the U.S. top attorney offices and legal firms. This is unbelievable. He's extorting law firms to get what he wants and to get free legal services valued at tens of millions of dollars for him, his administration, and causes or other lobby groups that he agrees with. He is just showing that the U.S. has gone so far down the tubes in the last several months that it's unbelievable. Something we never thought we would see. Something that we never thought would happen. And I don't even think those mega people really thought that he was going to follow through on a lot of his promises. And those that they did think he would follow through on, they have been lied to, and take that a step further to say that he deceived them. and he intentionally defrauded the American voters, not only the ones that support him, but every American. And now he has plainly said right on the record that he does not give an F about what people think of him, and that is very clear. Now, you can also look at the fact that these law firms are not challenging him in court because they are afraid of losing that business. They're afraid of losing millions upon millions upon millions, and, sometimes tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, these major firms. They don't want to take a chance of losing that in the next 4 years while Trump is in office, and that is insane. They also have fear that Donald Trump may find a way to take a third term. As he said during the elections and such, he said that you won't have to vote again after you vote this time. What exactly that meant at the time, people shrugged off, but now it's looking more serious that he is looking to circumvent the Constitution of the United States of America to get a third term in office. Now, if you look at the way in which Barack Obama addressed the audience and addressed the issues, that is a president that you can respect. That is a president that no matter what side of the political spectrum you're from, you can at least respect that he is eloquent, that he is passionate about his beliefs, and that he is passionate about what is best for the United States of America. And that is the other reason that he called on Americans to stand up, to reach out to their Congress members, to their senators, and, everybody to make noise, to say this is not acceptable. And if you want to keep your position as an elected official, it's time that you stood up for the people in which you are supposedly representing there in Washington. And that is a big message from Barack Obama, that it's not about politics, it's not about partisan, it is about America, and that's what matters at the end of the day. So it really is powerful to see him speaking in such terms, and just to lay the cards on the table as they are. And, when you look at other news cycles, it's a lot of ignoring the realities out there. You didn't see Fox News covering the death of people due to the storms in the United States over the past several days. You didn't see them screaming at the top of their lungs, asking Trump why the hell he's not out there welcoming the bodies back of the service members lost during the NATO training, and to offer condolence to their families. We didn't see that, and we don't see Fox going on to demand it. And when you look at it, a part of it too is the continued lies that not only disseminate from Donald Trump, but continue to spew out of his press secretary's mouth. And I call her Bargain Basement Barbie. That's my nickname for her. And she is so fake, just like a Barbie doll. She has absolutely no common sense. She has no respect for the American people. And she is there because her husband had $5 million that he was able to toss up in the air at Donald Trump and get her a job in the White House. Like, seriously, this is what's happening in the country south of us here. And it is scary because it's having a direct impact on the rest of the world. And, if we were to watch this in a movie, it might be very entertaining. But when it comes to real life and the fact that this is actually happening, it's unbelievable. It's a nightmare story that, even Stephen King wouldn't have written. And although, in all fairness, Stephen King did warn us about Trump. So, that's pretty sad to state that, the scariest writer in history is telling us that the most fearful thing in the world is Trump. And that's got to stop. Now, as I said, the Supreme Court has delayed the return of the American that was accidentally, according to the Trump administration, sent to El Salvador to the prison. But we also need to find out how many others that their families didn't see on the news and aren't able to locate. How many of those have been shipped off to El Salvador and the families don't even know about it, that people don't have a voice? And now it should be even scarier, because if you are in the United States, or whether you're a traveler, a foreign individual on U.S. soil, or even an American who doesn't have the proper identification on hand when the ICE moves through, makes a sweep, you could end up, realistically, you could end up in an El Salvadorian prison where the government of the U.S. says they have absolutely no authority to have you released or returned to the U.S. And that is wrong. That just threw out due process that is guaranteed to every person in the U.S., whether you are a citizen or not. Due process is there. You have constitutional rights that have been violated now, and they are just being ignored. And again, the bullying by the Trump administration and the threatening of judges is just continuing to allow Trump to get away with all of his bullshit that's going on right now, and that needs to be addressed. When you look at the different areas of the tariffs, and Trump is just incensed that countries are fighting back. He is pissed off that countries are putting retaliatory tariffs on his tariffs. He calls them retaliatory tariffs, but they're not. The formula that he used is such a failure, and it is not based on any real formula for tariffs, but instead just something they pulled out of their ass to deal with, to make these threats and then to follow through with these tariffs to crash the U.S. economy and to influence markets around the world. Now, of course, he and his billionaire friends are sitting pretty because they are going to come in. And there's a report, and I don't know the accuracy of it. I haven't been able to verify it personally, but there is a report online that J.D. Vance, a company that he owns or is involved with, that they are starting to buy up farms and agriculture holdings for pennies on the dollar now that the markets are down and people are suffering. And, J.D. Vance, as the vice president, is going in and scooping up these places for pennies on the dollar so that when the market rebounds, they are going to walk away just insanely compensated. So the level of corruption going on in the U.S. government right now and with the Trump friends and cronies is at a new level. It has never, ever been seen in the history of the United States of America or in the Western free world. Now, again, this is stuff that we would expect out of North Korea, out of Russia, out of, so many other places, Iran or such. But they don't claim to be the big democratic societies, and they don't claim to have, freedom. They don't claim to have, all of these things that are protected within a constitution. And they make no apologies for it. But Donald Trump is representing one of the biggest democracies in the world, one of the biggest global powerhouses in the world, and instead has really alienated the rest of the world. And that is a scary thought. As I said earlier, when you have someone who walks in and just totally rips up trade agreements and goes against the World Trade Organization and the regulations that are set for tariffs on the global scale that were agreed to by all countries. When you have a president who is claiming victim, that he's crying that they've been victimized by all these countries for so long, oh, give me a frickin' break. The U.S. has not been victimized. They have not been taken advantage of by all these countries for so long. Instead, the U.S. has made trillions and trillions of dollars on the systems that were in place, on transitioning from a manufacturing base to a more, I would say, an intellectual-based economy. They went from machine power to people power. They provide services, they provide products, but also they provide intellectual products and properties. And that is where a lot of the billions of dollars come from, or trillions of dollars. You look at all of the world technology and how much of it comes out of the US, even though it's manufactured overseas. And are you going to find people that want to sit there all day and put screws into an iPhone and put the screens in? Well, you might in some regional areas. But again, how are you going to compete with the wages that they were paying in China and in India and other parts of the world? You're not going to be able to compete with those wages. So again, the value of those items is remaining the same, but the cost is going up because of the fact that they have to pay these increased expenses. Now, is that realistic to think that companies are going to stay long term? Well, they're going to be on the way back out the door in globalization and going back to India, going back to China and other countries to try to get them to do the manufacturing once Trump is out of office. Are these companies going to want to invest billions of dollars in infrastructure and machinery and everything else that's going to be required to set up shop in the US? It's going to take years for this infrastructure to be built at the very beginning, and therefore it's not necessarily going to be cost advantageous for these companies. They may just sit back and wait and pay the tariffs for the next 4 years, reduce the input into the United States, reduce the jobs that are actually in the United States already, and just wait until the next president comes in, and hopefully it's not Trump for a third term. But again, a lot of the corporations are going to sit back and wait. That's going to cost more Americans jobs. If they think that just miracle is going to happen, that overnight there's going to be millions more jobs that have been created in the U.S., then they're fooling themselves. Now, Trump is trumpeting these recent job numbers of 200 and something thousand in the last month that was reported. But again, how many of these are minimum paid jobs that are replacing, blue collar workers or trades or other things? How many of these jobs are actually real? Because we know that a lot of the numbers coming out of the White House these days are completely fabricated and just pulled out of thin air, or they use ChatGPT and other AI systems to try to evaluate different information. And that is a big concern, because these are going to be the detriment of the American workers, the Canadian workers, the Japanese workers, the Chinese, the India. It doesn't matter. The global markets are going to be suffering for some time. And until Donald Trump is impeached or his term is over in 4 years, it's going to be an ugly road ahead. It's going to be a rough path. And until people start to demand, and I'm talking the politicians on both sides of the aisle need to demand that things change. There is the opportunity for the U.S. government, for the Congress to retake the authority over tariffs, but they won't do it. They haven't got the balls to stand up to Trump, and that is the truth. I hate to say it, but that is the truth. We have seen over decades and so many presidents where they are opposed by Congress. Congress goes against them and overrides their decisions. And yet with Trump, he's been given free reign over everything. And that is not how the U.S. government and not how the Congress should work. And it is not up to the United States government, no matter what bargain basement Barbie says. It's not up to the president to dictate the decisions of courts in the land. The judiciary is separate. It always has been. And until now, it was on a path to continue that way. Unfortunately, now it seems that Donald Trump has just spread out, taking control of the congressional, of the administrative, and the judicial aspects of the U.S. government, and he is acting more of a dictator every day. And for him to be on Air Force One and all that he wants to talk about is this golf game. And he's saying to the reporter, "Oh, you heard I won. Oh, you did hear about that, right? You heard I won, right?" And that was his biggest concern, is his golf handicap and the fact that he won some seniors washed up golf tournament in which he probably cheated, because he cheats at everything and nobody calls him out on his bullshit. And people just don't want to tell him that his shit stinks just like everybody else. And they need to grow some balls and stand up to this guy. When we look at the other parts of the speech that Barack Obama made, I encourage you to go on to YouTube and just search Hamilton College, Barack Obama, and watch the entire speech. It's over an hour, hour and a half or so. And there's a lot that he says, and it's not just about Trump and the current government. He talks about communication and listening and just so many different valuable insights that he's learned over his lifetime. and bits of knowledge that he's sharing with the students at the Hamilton College. So again, if you haven't seen the entire interview with him and the entire speaking engagement, I encourage you to do it. Again, go onto YouTube and just search Hamilton College. Excuse me, and yeah, you can go from there. It's a very good watch. I strongly encourage it. But other than that, here in Canada, of course, we are fighting back. As I said, that Trump is incensed that countries are fighting back with the tariffs. He thinks that the way to deal with that is to just totally go against reality, to go against them, and to just basically keep going back and forth with these tariffs. It's ridiculous. As far as he's concerned, if you speak up against him, or your country, excuse me, your country says anything about his tariffs, then you are the problem and you need to be punished for it. And, you know, again, just like a dictator would. So yeah, it is just ridiculous. I'm going to address something here that, actually, no, we'll do that in another show. That's all good. And that is in the interest of time. We are coming to the end of tonight's episode of Live Chat with James in Vancouver, BC at the ProPix TV studios. Welcome, Rebby Niram. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome. But yeah, before I go, if there's any conversations or any comments that you want to share in the comment section, please do, and I can respond to them. So again, if you have something that you want to add, by all means, please do it now in the comment section before we wrap up for the evening. Let's see. Mom Who Knows Something, welcome. Oh, there we go. CA. So you could be in Canada or you could be in California. One or the other. We have Jad who joined. Kevin, Kev, 1975. GS Elsa. Blue Water Bee. Nans the Messick, or however you say that. Sorry if I butchered it. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the chat. I guess that we have pretty much wrapped up here. I don't see anybody adding the comments, so I will call it a show. Thanks again for tuning in to Live Chat with James here on ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. I wish you all a great day. Remember that if you are watching this show in a rebroadcast or on our podcast platforms, then by all means make sure that you add your comments. I do review them from the different platforms, whether that's YouTube or TikTok, Spotify, whatever. I do pay attention to all the comments and try to work them into the next show to respond to them. If you have questions or just general comments, then you're welcome to do that. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Excuse me, to keep up on the latest when we go live, as well as our other stories that we post. Earlier tonight, we did post a story on the Ramstein 25. That's a big NATO exercise involving many countries for air defense systems working together and practicing over in Europe from various bases outside of Germany as well. So the main NATO command center for air command is at Ramstein in Germany, but there were other nations involved in other airfields that they were launching these different exercises from. So check out the video. I think you'll enjoy it. Some great B-roll supplied by NATO to us. So again, thank you to them for that. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day, folks.